If you've watched my channel for a long time, you might remember that my second video on this channel was a top 10 list of my favorite design monsters in film. At the beginning of that video, I made a point of banning the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth, stating he was too good. But since then, I've seen so many weird and wonderful movie monsters. So, who would now be in the #1 spot on that list of movie monsters? Well, please like and subscribe, or I will not finish my script. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to leave it empty. Okay, you've liked and subscribed, good. The answer is still the Pale Man. But I assume you already knew that, because the title of this video was probably Villain Deep Dive Pale Man, because I lack creativity. I'm going to break down pretty much the entire sequence of the Pale Man, as it does only last 6 minutes, as previously stated. To start, we get a brilliant setup because Ophelia is given the rules about her next trial, and the image of this terrifying humanoid monster is shown to accompany the rules. But the rules never actually mention the monster, so you are wondering what it is, and this creates tension. The rules further ramp up the tension through the use of 2 other tactics. For one thing, she's given a time limit. See, she must complete the trial before the hourglass runs out, otherwise she'll be stuck in this alternate existence. Second, she is given a warning to not eat anything. Again, the fact that the monstrous creature is mentioned, along with a clause about not eating, means that if the rules are broken, the monster will probably come into play. But again, because it's not stated, it ramps up the tension and you get a feeling of deep unease. Ophelia goes into this alternate reality using chalk, which is just a brilliant way to do it, and then goes down this long hallway to reach an antechamber with a table filled with food. At the head of this table sits the Pale Man. There are a few initial things I love about this. First, Del Toro creates a brilliant contrast between Mitch McConnell but sexier and the rest of the environment. The creature's pale, creamy color creates an instant contrast from the rest of the room's richer color scheme of golds and browns. The figure seems out of place and alien because of this. Secondly, the fact that it has all the food in front of it on this table, yet at its place at the table, it only has one small plate with 2 circles, 2 orbs on it, creates this feeling of terror. And if the twist hasn't been revealed to you, you might not even understand that those are the Pale Man's eyes, as their red pupils makes them not look that much like eyes. In fact, when I first saw it, I was confused by them. Then Ophelia looks at the ceiling, where we see murals that depict the Pale Man feasting on children. Interestingly, in these murals, the Pale Man still has its eyes, so that might suggest that the blindness it has is a consequence of its human feasting, and a direct one at that. It then pans. Get it? The film is Pan's Labyrinth. That joke was really bad. Anyway, it then pans to a pile of shoes on the ground. And if you paid attention, you could actually see both the murals and the piles. Yes, I said piles, multiple, because they do appear to be piled around every pillar. Again, suggesting just how many children this monster has eaten. The brilliance here is that we get all the information about the Pale Man eating children and how many it's eaten through an entirely visual medium. Del Toro doesn't tell us exactly what the Pale Man is, and instead we must pay attention to the little details in order to draw those conclusions for ourselves. Ophelia then gets the dagger she needs, using the keyholes on the wall, and then decides to eat from the murdered dude's table.
That was the plan. Not a great plan.
The fairies warn her not to eat from the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man's alcoholic uncle's table, but she tells them to piss off and does it anyway. Then, it finally happens. The Pale Man moves. Everything from this moment out is pure tension and pure terror. The slow movement of the Pale Man's fingers as they crack upwards, one at a time, is so deeply unsettling. The way it slowly lifts its hands to its face and splays its fingers in order to see Ophelia is downright terrifying. Also, that sound it makes when it sticks its eyes in its hands is so... Let's just say the sound designer was having a field day when this scene was shot. Let me put it that way. The Pale Man's design is so horrifyingly original. The crunchy sounds it makes when moving and its wheezing also just add to the terror of it. Again, the sound guy was having way too much fun. Also, the way it tears the heads off of the two fairies is horrifying. Del Toro perfectly captures the primal childhood fear of the boogeyman, as this is what we all would, as children, probably imagined the monster under our bed would look like. And this is why I think the Pale Man is so well known. The Pale Man captures some sort of primal fear in all of us. The Pale Man strikes the perfect balance between being human-shaped, but so clearly not human that it lands squarely in the uncanny valley. Let's actually talk a little bit about that design right now. First, the Pale Man's somewhat almost amphibian appearance, as its pooled flesh almost appears as gills, is definitely the most disgusting thing I've said on this channel. Congratulations, Pale Man. Its blackened, overly long fingers are such a nice touch, and while researching this, I actually learned they were meant to simulate eyelashes, and those deep crimson pupils are equally horrifying, as they are absolutely biologically impossible. Like, how do they connect the ocular nerve? Also, when he grabs things, wouldn't he be blinded, and wouldn't that hurt a lot? Also, the lack of eyes at first and its just face in general is deeply disgusting. The Pale Man's way of moving is also amazing. And this all comes down to how Doug Jones portrayed the character. Doug Jones is such a fantastic actor. His lanky frame allowed for the Pale Man to be made from almost entirely practical effects. So what they did was actually they piled fake skin into these patterns and then painted it, and it looks disgustingly brilliant. All of them was practical, except for its legs, which were practical, but because they're so skinny, and Doug Jones does not have skinny legs, Doug Jones had to wear green leggings so that they could green screen in the wall behind him. And it is very funny if you think about the Pale Man wearing tights while chasing Ophelia. The practical effects used to make the Pale Man cause him to feel real because he is real. He's not some CGI blob like most modern movie monsters, a la the spaghetti monsters from Eternals. God, that movie's awful. And the CGI that is used enhances the already existing costume instead of some entirely CG mass of ugh. Oh! It's what allows the Pale Man to have those freakishly skinny lower limbs that move in such a realistic manner, and it's disgusting sounds, and it's so brilliant. I love it. Before I talk about the philosophical implications of the Pale Man, which I'll get to in a moment, I actually want to talk about how the design of the Pale Man evolved. See, originally it was just going to be tongues that would lick Ophelia if she opened the wrong door to get the dagger, it was then going to be a fat man who became a thin man. And while using Ozempic can be scary for some, I don't think that's not hitting the mark for me. But the idea that Del Toro wanted actually had to be cut for budget purposes, and that was for the Pale Man's mouth to open up, revealing a screaming skeletal horse that would chase Ophelia. And while that idea is absolutely metal as hell, I'm glad we ended up with what we got. The Pale Man has some interesting philosophical interpretations that you could draw from it, but I want to give you what I personally think it is. Well, it turns out my actual thoughts of the Pale Man were half wrong, as Guillermo del Toro does tell us what the Pale Man represents, and that is institutionalized evil. So, yeah. I personally think the Pale Man is indicative of two things, and one of those is the horrors of war. The piles of the shoes in the Pale Man's lair always make me think of those horrifying images of World War II. The Pale Man's use of food to lure in hungry children who are starving because of the war shows the depravity of war and those who use it for their own gain, especially at the cost of others. War is an ever-hungry force, as seen through the loose skin that hangs on the Pale Man in its ravenous maw. It is also completely blinded in its pursuit of destruction. Whenever it grabs something to devour it, it can no longer see. This is symbolic of how, when war finally grasps something, it is blind to the innocence that it might destroy. Conversely, I guess not really conversely, but likewise, I think the Pale Man could also represent the terror of a strict rule system to a child. The main character is a child, and as children, we often might have felt as though the rules were suffocating and meant only to constrain us. This can be seen as how the rules are what caused the Pale Man to attack, like a parent punishing a child. Except usually a parent doesn't eat their child if they disobey. No matter what the Pale Man represents, he is still, without a doubt in my mind, the greatest designed and executed movie monster of all time. Del Toro did a fantastic job with him. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I love reading you guys' comments. Leave suggestions or leave stuff telling me how I'm entirely wrong with my interpretations, as someone did with my last video. Thank you guys, and as always, peace.